In the beginning of the story, we meet a skilled sniper named Drasa, who has been staying in a tunnel for the last 10 days. She is on a mission to eliminate a government delegate arriving at a nearby airport. Drasa is not just any sniper. She is an expert assassin who completes her tasks with precision and ease. After successfully taking down her target, she keeps the bullet shell as a memento, a ritual of hers. Meanwhile, we are introduced to another sharpshooter named Lavai. Unlike Drasa, Lavai is haunted by recurring nightmares. One day, struggling with his thoughts, he goes to the beach, sits down, and writes a poem. Suddenly, he receives a text from an unknown number instructing him to report to a place called C Pendleton. Following the instructions, Lavai arrives and meets a woman who begins questioning him. Through their conversation, we learn that Lavai was once a top sniper in the Navy, but retired 4 years ago after being told he was no longer fit for missions. Since then, he has remained inactive. The woman also inquires about his personal life, asking if he has any close relationships or family, to which Lavai replies that he has none. At the end of their conversation, the woman assigns him a new mission, confirming that the interrogation was part of his recruitment process. Lavai agrees to take on the task. The story then shifts back to Drasa, who is visiting her mother's grave in Lithuania. Her father is also present, and they have a heartfelt conversation. Drasa hands him her empty bullet shell, a symbolic gesture of her regret for the lives she takes. Drasa's father is terminally ill with cancer, and he tells her that he plans to end his life on Valentine's Day. He feels there is nothing left for him since his wife is gone, and Drasa is always occupied with her missions. However, she understands his decision. She then informs him that she has been assigned a mission that will keep her away for an entire year. In September, Lavai's mission begins. He boards an airplane where all his belongings are confiscated. He is given a briefing about his destination, then jumps from the plane and treks through rough terrain before reaching an isolated outpost. There, he meets another soldier who has been stationed in the area for a year. The soldier explains that the place is so secluded that he has not spoken to anyone in 12 months. Lavai learns that his mission is to guard the west tower of the gauge, a task assigned annually to a new soldier. Communication with the soldier in the opposite tower is prohibited due to the deep chasm between them. His main duties include patrolling and checking military equipment daily, though he does not understand what exactly he is guarding or why. The area is filled with clunkers that emit false signals to prevent detection by spy satellites, emphasizing the site's secrecy. J.D., the soldier currently stationed there, briefs Lavai on the rules. There is no external communication except for a single radio with a panic button, whose signal destination remains unknown. J.D. warns that if the clunkers are ever destroyed, a stray dog protocol will be activated. When Lavai asks what this protocol entails, J.D. admits that even he does not know. However, he gives Lavai one crucial piece of advice. If he ever hears air raid sirens, he must run and not stop. Also, he reveals, the location was established during the Cold War, with both the East and West agreeing to keep it hidden. The United States sends a guard for the West, while the East appoints one from their side. J.D. clarifies that rather than preventing people from entering the gauge, their duty is to ensure that nothing comes out. He believes that the gauge is a gateway, and the guards are its keepers. There are rumored to be strange creatures known as hollow men lurking within. J.D. recounts a chilling history. In 1940, 3 battalions totaling 2,400 cavalry soldiers were sent into the gauge to clear it out, but not a single soldier returned. Their fate remains unknown. The next day, J.D.'s duty ends, and he prepares to leave via helicopter. However, as soon as he boards and identifies himself to the pilot, the officers inside shoot him and throw his body into the gauge. This brutal act is orchestrated by the same woman who assigned Lavai his mission, revealing that the government eliminates guards once their time is up to maintain secrecy. Lavai should realize that he will face the same fate in a year. Now alone, Lavai settles into his tower, following his daily routine in complete isolation. October arrives, and while inspecting his room, he discovers a bookshelf covered with handwritten notes from previous guards. Among them, he finds a poem that reads, "Only those who take the risk of going too far can know how far they can go." This quote is going to be most important. One day, while patrolling, Lavai hears the loud sound of a chainsaw coming from the opposite tower. Using his binoculars, he spots a woman cutting a tree. It is none other than Drasa, the sniper from the east. They are now stationed opposite each other, unknowingly serving the same mission from different sides. One night at 3 a.m., Lavai wakes up and injures himself on a broken bottle. As he tends to his wound, he notices Drasa sitting in her tower. The next day is her birthday, and she celebrates by cutting a small cake alone. Feeling lonely, she devises a way to communicate with Lavai. She fires a pistol to catch his attention, then writes her name on a piece of paper, beginning their silent conversations. Having had no human contact for months, both are overjoyed to communicate. Drasa even plays music and dances in her tower, bringing a rare moment of joy. However, amidst their brief happiness, Drasa notices something unusual in the gauge. She signals Lavai to look, and to their horror, they see strange creatures, the Hollow Men, climbing up towards their towers. Realizing the danger, they work together to fight off the creatures. Lavai shoots at those climbing Drasa's tower, while she covers him in return. Both prove their incredible marksmanship, but the battle is intense. One Hollow Man reaches Drasa's tower, and she barely manages to kill it before throwing its body back into the chasm. In the process, she sustains injuries but manages to recover. This terrifying encounter confirms the existence of the Hollow Men. The next day, Lavai spots a strange drone-like device emerging from the gauge, though he does not understand its purpose. Despite the looming danger, he and Drasa continue their daily exchanges, forming a deep connection. Lavai takes care of Drasa as much as himself, and she supports him in return. As Christmas approaches, Lavai decorates a small tree with lights. Drasa, delighted by the gesture, watches from her tower, and for a moment, they share a peaceful holiday together. Days pass, and their bond strengthens. By February, Lavai wakes from another nightmare and instinctively thinks of Drasa. Both realize they are incredibly far apart, yet closer than ever emotionally. The next day, during patrol, Lavai does not see Drasa. Worried, he inquires at night, and Drasa confesses that she is feeling deeply sad and missing him. Seeing her in distress, Lavai recalls the poem from the bookshelf and speaks the line aloud. "Until you take the risk of moving forward, you will never know how far you can go." This realization will shape the course of their fate. Lavai was determined to reach Drasa, and his plan was nothing short of daring. He decided to zip-line across to the east end, using a grenade to launch cables across the coast. Drasa, seeing what he was up to, helped him set up the line. Once everything was ready, Lavai grabbed some flowers and got ready to meet her. But as luck would have it, his zip-line got stuck midway. With no other option, he climbed using his hands and somehow managed to reach the east tower. Drasa was overjoyed to see him, and the two sat down to enjoy lunch together. As they ate, they talked about their shooting careers, and it was revealed that Lavai was one of the top 5 sniper shooters in the world. Their conversation soon drifted to more mysterious matters. Where exactly were they? Who was Hollow Man? And why was he like this? Lavai was growing increasingly curious about the strange things happening around them. He also shared a chilling memory. The first assignment of his life, something that still haunted him to this day. That night, Drasa was feeling emotional. She spoke about how her father had been planning something big for the month of February, but she never got the chance to say goodbye to him. The night passed with this sorrow hanging in the air. The next morning, Lavai had to return to his side, but just as he was about to leave, he saw explosions happening on his side of the wall. The blast severed his rope, causing him to fall. Seeing him in danger, Drasa jumped into the gorge to save him. She landed in a river, but her parachute started dragging her under. At the last moment, she managed to free herself and swim to safety. Unfortunately, in the chaos, Drasa lost her auto-ascender, which would have helped them climb out of this place. Meanwhile, Lavai was left hanging by one leg, completely vulnerable to an incoming giant creature. He quickly shot at it, but in doing so, he fell into a sticky root system that refused to let him go. Just as he was struggling, Drasa swooped in and attacked the creature, saving Lavai's life. After regaining their composure, the two decided to explore the strange place they had found themselves in. The forest was dense, filled with plants of bizarre colors, and neither of them had any idea what realm they were in. Suddenly, 3 monstrous horsemen attacked them, inflicting injuries. But Lavai and Drasa weren't ones to back down. They fought fiercely. These horsemen looked somewhat human, but had tree roots growing out of their bodies, making them appear like a terrifying mix of man and plant. Drasa then realized their auto-ascender was gone, meaning they would have to figure out another way to escape. Observing the horsemen's clothing, Lavai recognized them as soldiers from 1940 who were originally sent into the gorge to clean it up. But how were they still alive? And how had they turned into part-tree creatures? As they moved deeper into the gorge, they saw bodies that had turned into trees. The place was beginning to look like something straight out of hell. Eventually, they came across a ruined church filled with skeletons sitting on benches. One of them still held a cyanide bottle in her hand. It became clear these people had committed suicide. But the real question was, what was in this place that was worse than death itself? Before they could think further, a horde of spiders with human skulls for heads attacked them. As if that wasn't enough, more terrifying creatures broke into the church from outside. Chaos erupted, but our snipers fought their way out, eventually finding a door in the wall of the gorge. They crawled through a passage and entered a cave, eventually stumbling upon what looked like an abandoned laboratory. Inside, Lavai found some old cassettes, and Drasa managed to power up a generator, allowing them to play the tapes on a projector. The video they watched revealed shocking secrets. A scientist appeared on screen, explaining that this facility was built in 1946 for biological and chemical missile research. It was part of a secret project between the East and West. But in 1946, a massive earthquake with an 88.1 magnitude struck, completely destabilizing the land. As a result, dangerous chemicals leaked into the environment. The situation became so bad that the researchers had no choice but to abandon the place and ensure the contamination didn't spread to the outside world. The leaked chemicals were horrifyingly potent. They didn't just kill, they caused human, animal, and even plant DNA to merge, leading to the creation of terrifying hybrid creatures. This explained why the entire place was crawling with monstrous entities. The scientist also warned that while short exposure to the area was fine, staying for more than a few days meant the chemicals would begin altering a person's body. The effects would start showing within 5 days. Realizing they had to escape quickly, Drasa and Lavai decided to find a way out. But while searching the lab, Lavai made another shocking discovery: computers. But how could there be computers when this place was abandoned in 1946? It turned out that the woman who had sent Lavai here wasn't a government official. She was the head of Dark Lake paramilitary, and she had restarted research in this facility to create super soldiers with the mutated DNA. The ultimate goal? To make the U.S. military invincible. Lavai found a classified file named Stray Dog, which contained proof of the entire experiment. The file also revealed the existence of a missile called Stray Dog, which, once activated, would wipe out the entire gorge without spreading radiation beyond a 4.2-kilometer radius. This meant the place could be permanently destroyed without endangering the outside world. As they were about to leave, Lavai thanked Drasa for being by his side, subtly revealing that he had fallen for her. Before heading out, Drasa realized she had left her bag at the entrance, but when she went to retrieve it, the horsemen attacked again. This time, they trapped her and dragged her away. Lavai tried to follow, but of course he couldn't keep up with a galloping horse. He tracked them to the main gas chamber where the horsemen were torturing Drasa. But Drasa wasn't one to give up easily. She fought fiercely against a creature that seemed to be a horrific fusion of human, plant, and even snake DNA. Eventually, she set it on fire. Lavai arrived just in time to finish the job with his bullets. As they escaped, they stumbled upon a horrifying scene, a bridge where countless humans had fused with trees and insects, forming a grotesque living structure. Drasa accidentally woke up a creature, causing them all to attack. But Lavai fought them off while Drasa set them ablaze, burning them all. They found a jeep that could help them scale the gorge's walls. Fighting off waves of creatures, they managed to drive upwards, but more monsters climbed after them. In a desperate move, they set the jeep on fire and sent it crashing down, eliminating the pursuers. Then, they started climbing the wall with their bare hands. Having escaped, they agreed to quarantine themselves for 5 days before leaving permanently. Before parting ways, Lavai told Drasa, "I love you." Back at his base, Lavai contacted his superiors, but the Dark Lake head was already suspicious. She had been monitoring him via a hidden camera in his radio. Realizing he had betrayed them, she dispatched soldiers to hunt down both him and Drasa. As Lavai and Drasa tried to escape, drones started attacking them. In the final moment, they triggered the Stray Dog missile, which obliterated the entire facility. The Dark Lake head and her soldiers were caught in the blast, unable to escape in time. As for Lavai, he ran as far as he could before jumping into the river. His fate was left uncertain. Meanwhile, Drasa hid in a cave and completed her 5-day quarantine. Afterward, she traveled to France, where they had planned to reunite. She waited and waited, but Lavai never showed. Eventually, she opened the letter he had left her. It contained a heartfelt poem. Tears streamed down her face. It seemed Lavai had succumbed to radiation and would never return. Months later, in April, Drasa was working as a waitress, trying to move on. But then, she saw him. Lavai was sitting at a table, waiting for her. He had survived. Though late by a month, he had come back for her. And with that, their nightmare was finally over. If you like this movie, then don't forget to subscribe the channel.